Well, hey there, idiots. Welcome back to Observe, and welcome to another... Honestly, welcome to another time that I had to watch through the live-action Snow White. More on that in just a second. Let's go ahead and roll that intro first. All right, so in different news today, I have my puppy in studio. It's really warm, so I have everything opened up, so he's free to come in and visit. So there might be some interruptions today, but this is Mynko. He's a sweet baby boy. Anyway, you might see him in here. Hopefully he doesn't cause too much disruption as he wanders around here in the studio. In today's video, I'm going to be comparing the nonverbal communication found in the live-action Snow White to the original animated film, and talking about why that original film from nearly 100 years ago got things are centered around behavior so much more accurate than what the live-action did. Yeah, I think that's enough of that. Let's go ahead and just start right into the footage itself. So surely you already noticed the crushing silence. I did this in the last one, and I do this in just about all of my videos to try to circumvent copyright stuff as much as possible, although Disney is very, very strict with their copyright rules, so this is already going to be claimed regardless. But you'll notice all of the music has been removed. It's only going to be the vocals, some sound effects that were able to make it through that noise filter. Yeah, it's going to be uncomfortable in a lot of areas due to that. I wanted to go ahead and throw that out there. So what this is going to function as is I'm going to show the clip from the original, or not from the original, from the 2025 live action, and then compare it to the original. We'll break it down as it's going along, and then we'll talk about the differences between those two afterwards. Yeah.
Would you like one?
You're very kind. It's getting late.
So something that really highlights very clearly, if you take all of the music out of stuff, is the mechanical nature of the way that the dialogue is delivered. It's very stilted from, it seems as though, most parties. Now, this isn't necessarily due exclusively to the talent. It's oftentimes due to the director and what vision they have in mind for the specific scene. But when you take that music out to kind of carry everything along, it really highlights where a lot of the ineptitudes are coming from. And I mean, since this is a video complaining about kids' shows, I'm going to continue to just complain about it to whatever degree that I feel like. And so, yeah, what was stopping him from just grabbing an apple? He could have grabbed an apple just fine. No reason for her to have to offer him one. But again, that's very nitpicky. That's not anything to do with body language on that specific note, but it is still something that sticks out to me as kind of funny. Hey, kiddo. Hi, yes, I know. Big fun. All right, diving back in. Why? And already here we are with some of the joys of the live action. So Mr. Guard Soldier Man has drawn a knife, a dagger on Snow White. Now, Snow White is this innocent. It hasn't seen much conflict in the original story. In this one, it's all wrought with conflict. So it doesn't make as much sense for her to have this I'm willing to be killed right here and now kind of reaction, which is what she's doing here. She's exposing the vulnerable area of her neck. It's not a natural response to harmful situations. People close in and try to protect those vulnerable areas. It goes down to a subconscious level and your like lizard brain kind of thing of where you just want to preserve yourself, your well-being. And so for her to have that's not a natural response to an external stimulus that's negative that way. Now, there are obviously all sorts of behavioral tics and things that can lend towards certain behavioral displays, which is much more complex than what I think a Disney story is including in even their planning of things. But already we're seeing the classic chin jet, which I've covered a lot of this in a prior video that I did where I broke down the nonverbal communication of Snow White. And so there's some issues with that there that I have. Go and watch that video if you would like to have all of this context that I'm talking about here in this video. But regardless, this is an unnatural nonverbal movement to an external negative stimulus. Again, you'd be more inclined to protect and cover up than you would to try to expose all of the vulnerable areas naturally. Again, there's always all sorts of exceptions to that rule. Generally speaking, I suppose would be a way to put it, is that's going to be your more common response to a threat, is to protect yourself.
Why?
You must flee into the woods. The queen is mad. She'll stop at nothing.
I can't leave the kingdom.
She is evil, child. She's a liar. You were never told the truth about your father. Go.
What about my father?
Please, before I change my mind.
Okay, so sans music, the energy, you could very clearly tell that the energy of the scene itself is lacking. It's stilted, it's slowed down. The nonverbal communication does not convey the weight of the scene well enough to be able to carry it on. And so what we're running into the issue of is a forced intensity that doesn't exist with their behaviors. They're trying to force in this level of risk and threat and things like that, and then it's not really exactly reflected. And the reason that it's not so much reflected is because of the stiltedness and the timing of everything. Again, everything is paced out in a way that doesn't feel natural. There's ebbs and flows to human behavior, and when it's occurring here, it doesn't exist. So just in that scene, we're seeing some problematic issues here, but now we're going to go ahead and rewind it nearly 100 years, 90-ish years, and we're going to watch the original animated representation of what happened in this scene, and we'll talk about those differences after the scene itself. What you can't hear in this part is that Snow White is doing la 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 kind of singing, but it was removed in light of the musical side of things. So no la la la's are happening there, just the forest ambience to go in the background. But yeah, again, it makes things pretty awkward and uncomfortable at times, but I just wanted to let you know that that's kind of what's happening there, when she stands up and the wind's blowing and everything. There's some la la la's happening in there as well. Very realistic.
Hello, Bears. What's the matter? Where's your mom and papa? What? I believe you're lost. Oh, please don't cry. Come on, wake up. Won't you smile for him? That's better.
All right, so behaviorally speaking, Snow White is already painted out in a different energy than the live-action Snow White is. When she's interacting with the world around her, it is still filled with the wonder and awe that I think that they were trying to push into the live-action as well. But then on top of that, you see her interacting specifically with animals, and it's that interaction with animals that helps us grow a little bit more attachment to her as she's showing affection and care towards these helpless or vulnerable creatures around her. Really draws you into her character a little bit more. That's not really present in the live action of this movie up until much later, perhaps in the dwarves' cottage, is when you might be able to see a little bit of that starting to come out here. But then if we're panning back around to the soldier, I think he's the huntsman. I'm not sure on that. That Snow White is not my favorite set of movies in general, either original or live action. But I do prefer the original over the live action. What a shot. But if we pan back over to Mr. Soldier Man, who looks like he's pretending to be Peter Pan or Robin Hood, he's already animated in a way to indicate that he's feeling nefarious about things. And the way that they're doing this is very overt. If you tried to act it out, it would look more stage acted than what would normally be accepted on screen or in film. But he's doing darting eyes. You could see that he has a constant grimace on his face. His eyebrows are narrowed and lowered, and that's all indicative of agitation, anger, aggression, things like that. So already behaviorally speaking, we're feeling more depth to these characters than what we did in live action. In the live action, they're just kind of cramming it in there. They want the scene to happen the way that it's supposed to happen, but they're not taking any of the steps to add that emotional depth that would really help carry that scene forward. So even with the very necessary music removed from it, we're still able to see and feel some of that energy carried along by just the behaviors that are animated into the characters themselves. Let's continue on and see how Snow White reacts to somebody pulling a knife on her, sneaking up on her, and then pointing it at her in a threatening and menacing way. We'll see if she opens up and says, please just kill me now. Just, any of these spots that are soft and vulnerable are great ones to stab, or if she does what people are more evolutionarily ingrained to do and try to protect and make space and things like that. Let's see.
Your mom and papa can't be far. Daddy. Can you fly? Goodbye. Goodbye.
I can't do it.
And so here we have the music is crescendoing in this area here. That's why you hear some of that weird digital and audio artifacting with their voices, as I tried to get that music out of there without it also removing all of their voice. But during this time, you also feel the energy because the responses from all of the characters that are on screen at the time feels more natural. He's coming up. Again, he's already shown his indicators of sinister behavior, right? We've seen that. Now, she turns around and she sees somebody, a grown man with a knife, that's coming at her in a threatening way, and she immediately creates space. That's one of the first things that you evolutionarily do, is you want to create space between yourself and the threat. And then after that, along with that, while after creating the space, whenever the thing starts to intensify, he's holding the knife and he's acting like he's going to do some damage here, then she creates a barrier. She throws up her hands and protects the vulnerable areas, which would be her face and her neck. These are all very automatic responses to many, or most, I would say most people, when presented with physical threats. They want to protect themselves from said threat. So the animators in this understood that non-verbally. They understood the behavior of human beings and they animated it into the show. Now, if you rewind back or fast forward 100 years to the live action, then you get to see what it looks like to not be represented with a real threat. If we watch live action Snow White's response to the threat, it feels like it's not a threat because of her response. There's no fear. There's nothing driving her back. She's not protecting herself. If anything, she's just staying really still and chit-chatting with the guy, which is de-escalation behavior. She's not trying to de-escalate the behavior in this specific scene. That's not her role. That's not her character quality. But in this scene, it seems as though that's the role that she's trying to take, which then just to us as the audience lends towards this severe disconnect of being like this. Just, it feels pithy. It doesn't feel deep. It doesn't feel like it's actually affecting anybody, and I'm not invested. And that's kind of your overall feeling with watching the new live action is I'm not invested. It doesn't seem like they're invested, so I'm not invested. It's a mess. Regardless, we're going to move on to a new scene after she runs. Yeah.
I beg of your highness, forgive me.
I don't understand.
She's mad and jealous of. She'll stop at nothing.
But who?
The queen.
Queen.
Not her child. Run. Run away. In the woods, anywhere. Never come back. I'll go. 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 Run.
So there was that. That's the difference in what the energy between the two scenes is, and this will happen on repeat. However, in this animated film, again, even as the huntsman, I'm going to call him the huntsman. I don't know if I'm correct on that, but that's what I'm calling him. Even as the huntsman is starting to talk about the things, you see the animators have animated him to move more broadly as he's talking with more passion and vigor about what he's speaking. And so that falls in line if you watch any interrogation, interview, any footage where somebody's talking about something, as soon as they start to talk about something that they're more passionate about. And this can be for any reason. It can be emotional passion of like, oh, I'm just invested. It can be a hobby, what have you. But if you see passion increase, non-verbally speaking, you will start to see their movements broaden as well, become bigger and more invigorated. And that just makes psychological sense. It makes sense in the animated film. It doesn't make sense in the live action. Speaking of live action, let's fast forward again another 90 years and watch a clip from the 2025 Snow White.
Magic mirror on the wall. Who's the fairest one of all?
Far beyond the castle wall, somewhere in the woods dwells Snow White, fairest one of all.
No.
I am only bound by what is true. The fairest lives. She is not you.
Seems we've hit a little hiccup. Someone made a little mess. And who, of course, is here to pick up the pieces? One guess. So what's the treatment?
Okay, there's the live action of Big Scary Queen. I don't personally feel like Godot was the right choice for the queen in this. She doesn't have the menace and the sinister energy about her to really carry that character forward. And in the last video that I did on this, I talk about some of the desynchronization from Godot's reactions to what's being spoken of by the magic mirror on the wall. The psychology behind it doesn't make sense. When she reacts to certain things doesn't make sense. Her whole thing of like, who's the fairest of them all, her hinging thing is she's the fairest of them all, but she only has issue about not being the fairest of them all as soon as Snow White comes into the picture. That's not the hinging factor of her psychology there. She wants to be the fairest of them all. She wants to be the biggest, best, whatever, everything like that. And so anytime that there's some sort of issue with that, that's when the emotional responses should be coming out with that. Now, they only come out when it's in regards to Snow White, which pushes the story forward a little bit. But psychologically speaking, the motivation behind her character is not that. So we as the audience, when watching it, again, it just feels like it's forced or it's pushed in there or it's fake because it does not synchronize with what the behavioral patterns should be. And then after that, it goes into one of my favorite things, which is a needless bursting into song. There's not really a need for song here. And even with that, she goes from being what would seem to be a little bit enraged about hearing that Snow White is, again, back in action here. And then she turns around and starts singing this rather cool and collected song, which does not fit with the emotional patterns that she was just starting to seep there. And then on top of that, and I mentioned this in the prior video, the psychology behind musicals is when the emotion of the scene, when the acting and action of the scene cannot carry the audience far enough, that's when song happens. They're feeling a certain thing and they want it to escalate from there and carry further from there. That's where a song can carry further, and be it burst out into happy song, sad song, mad song, whatever like that. That's where the song comes in. That doesn't fit here with the energy that was just presented. It's supposed to. It's even placed in what would be considered the right area, but because of Godot's representation of evil, anger, frustration, and all of that, it feels desynchronized, which is, again, just yet another point of shortcoming of the live action, which many people in my last video brought up. Isn't that all due to the directors? On some levels, yes, it is due to the directors giving poor directorial notes. On top of that, though, it's still up to the talent to represent in a specific way, and it was not done well in this film. Regardless, now it's time to rewind and watch the one from 1937.
Magic mirror on the wall. Who now is the fairest one of all?
Over the 7 jeweled hills, beyond the 7th wall, in the cottage of the 7 dwarfs, dwells Snow White, fairest one of all.
Snow White lies dead in the forest. The huntsman has brought me proof. Behold her heart.
This all makes sense so far with how this representation of Snow White has been carried out. With this one, you obviously get the feeling that the queen has already opened said box to look at the heart because that's what she asked for, and anybody who logically asked for a specific item and is handed a box will open that box to check to see if that item is there. In the live action, she doesn't do that, and she sits with a chest on her table that she assumes has a human heart in it. Doesn't. It has an apple in it. But this one has checked. She's checked. There is a heart in there, and it's about the size of a human heart, so she's not reacting emotionally to the mirror yet. She's still maintaining all of her sinister, somber vibes that she kind of carries throughout the rest of the film, which is, again, quintessential to her character. But she's not engaging emotionally to that because in her brain, she's seen the heart, and she's been told that that's Snow White's heart, so she doesn't have anything to worry about. So in this, she's just certain that the mirror is wrong, something along those lines. As the mirror continues to expand on what he had said earlier, you'll see some of this emotional triggering come out here.
Snow White still lives, the fairest in the land, with the heart of a pig you hold in your hand.
The heart of a pig! And I've been tricked.
So now, the heart of a pig, she shuts the box very sharply, and that's something that you'll see with aggression. If you see somebody becoming more angry, it is more likely that not only one will their movements become bigger, but they'll become more sharp and pointed. And so we see that coming in there. This is, again, intentionally done by the animators. Every single frame of every single animated movie is very intentionally considered and thought out. So she's thinking through this, or the animator's thinking through this, of making her look as if she's angry. And then across her face, there's a whole myriad of emotional displays that happen there. You see a little bit of the surprise come in with the raising of the eyebrows and the widening of the eyes ever so slightly. Then you see her narrow her eyes. That would be in relation to scorn or contempt. And then she shuts the box and says, blah, blah, blah. And then as she's walking off, her eyes are fully wide open. That lets you know that this is intense emotion. Along with that, her eyebrows are very drawn together and lowered in the middle towards that glabella area, which gives her that very angry or evil look, as now she's starting to do an action, which is to go and start doing something. In the live action, her start to doing something is she's going to sing a pointless song that doesn't make sense in the scene itself. And this one, there's no pointless song. She's going to start doing things, and that's because anger is a catalyst. It inspires movement and action. Again, such a stark contrast from the 2025 live action that had no sensical nature to it.
Jonathan?
I'm sorry, my dear. Did I frighten you?
No, I was expecting someone else. Can I help you?
It is I who can help you.
I brought this up in the last one. Her response to seeing somebody so overtly creepy in the middle of the woods does not make sense. And everybody was really quick to leap to the fact of oh, she's supposed to be innocent. She's supposed to not know these things. True. And in the original animated series, that makes a lot more sense. In this one, she doesn't have the same history that she does in the original animated series. In this one, she's playing off this weird Cinderella-esque intro to her character. She's working, she's down around the working folk in a castle and deals with the rough and tumble of the world and all of that sort of stuff. And so with that comes with a level of exposure and experience. So the Snow White in the live action was that. She had worked these kind of more grungy, dirtier jobs that would expose her to probably not the best of the castle dwellers. And that experience should carry into her future interactions, which it does in some parts, and then in other parts it really doesn't. And this is one of the many things that people feel a bit of disconnect again from the character for, is that it does not line up even contextually throughout the rest of the film. So this Snow White, who has all of her experience, should open up the door and have a level of alarm bells. And it seems as though she is having some suspicion. Oh, can I help you? And she's drawing together and lowering her eyebrows. This would be, again, in that agitation. It would be concern, so it's not full anger or anything along those lines, but she's feeling concerned. But then what she does afterwards completely contradicts that. And so it's just this mess of behavioral incongruencies. None of it makes sense at all. Let's watch.
Are you Snow White, the princess?
Who did you say you were?
I have come with a message. From Jonathan.
Jonathan.
I'm afraid he's been captured by the Queen.
Captured? No.
He gave me this necklace. He said you'd know what it means.
Need to go to him?
But what of the danger? Oh, you love him. Well, because love is so precious, I will help you.
Again, if you want to watch more of the breakdown of this, go watch the other video first, and that will help. I know what's coming up here as her solution of your lover is captured in a castle and sent a creepy old lady to let you know. Thinking about it, I'm not sure what exactly the old lady could do to help Snow White in this situation. I don't know. I don't know what it could be. Like, nothing really, right? I think arguably, realistically speaking, if this was a realistic scenario here, the old lady could not do much for Snow White in this whole scenario. But, oh my goodness, do we have such a good, helpful solution for Snow White going to rescue her boyfriend from a castle imprisonment. You know, here's the solution.
Here. Take this apple to sustain you on the road. I remember how generous your father was to his people.
Kid. So that's it. If anything, what Snow White was lacking for her mission of peril was a fruit. She needed that fruit. But not even for the mission of peril. It's just for the road. Snow White was, just to remind you, just in a cottage, crammed full of food that she had also cooked the day before and had access to more ingredients to do so further. But in this film, the solution, the big help that the queen, the old lady, is offering here is an apple for the road. Thank God. Wow. Even at just surface level, it's like, wow, I appreciate the apple. Thank you so much for an apple. You do know I'm going to a castle to fight guards, right? Yeah? He's in the jail there, right? So an apple. Okay, cool. Thank you. I appreciate the apple. I'll keep that in mind. Tuck it away and go on your way. That would be the human response to things. Let's see this.
That's why it is an honor for me to return the favor to his daughter. I know I don't have much to give. But giving you this apple makes me feel as though his spirit is here.
Thank you.
For him. For your father.
What's happening? Something's wrong.
So many things are wrong, Miss Snow White. Why? Why eat the apple there? I totally get if she's wanting to be sympathetic to this old lady who wandered many, many miles away to give her an apple and a necklace. Maybe taking the apple and being like, thank you, I really appreciate that. Thanks for doing all this effort. Knowing inside this isn't going to help me even a slight tiny bit in the mission that I now have ahead of me. Nowhere does any realm of human behavior demand that she then take the food from the stranger, the creepy stranger in the forest, which again, as we've already discussed, her character in this movie should have had alarm bells ringing already about. Nowhere in human behavior does it then necessitate that you immediately start to eat said apple. She left the house in a rush. She's like, I gotta go to him. But first, I want to chit-chat with this old lady and eat the apples she gives me. What? And yeah, like I said, I know this is a kid's show, so some of these plot strictness probably shouldn't be held to it, but that also doesn't give you an excuse for making a crappy movie, and that's what they did here. None of this makes sense. It just doesn't make sense behaviorally at all. We're about to get to the end of this, and then we'll go ahead and just carry straight on through into the 1937 version.
I did know your father quite well.
What did you mean?
I knew he was a fool. It's you. It was almost too easy for me to have him killed. His goodness cost him his throne, as it will cost you your life. So, tell me, Snow White, who is the fairest one of all?
All alone, my pet? Why, yes, I am. But
Okay. So already different interaction between old lady and Snow White. In the live action, obviously, there's a knock at the door, goes answer the door, and that's where the surprise happens. This one, old lady is leering through the window at Snow White, and Snow White's response to that is obviously sharp gasp in, starts to build space again, throws up hands. You see across her face the animator's best representation of a surprise expression. All of that fits regardless of the person's history. I mean, they can... No. Mynko. Let's not squeak on toys. I know. Yeah, I know. Very fun toys, but no. Anyway, regardless of the characteristics of this person, regardless of how jaded or inexperienced or whatever they may be, the surprise at an unexpected appearance of somebody in a window, that's going to be pretty universal. Everybody's going to be kind of surprised by that. That makes sense. Already after that, okay, so if we're looking at the hag, the queen, the old lady, whatever you want to call her, obviously to us, the viewers, she looks shady as all get out, looks insane, looks creepy and all of that. But this Snow White is truly sheltered, for lack of a better term. She doesn't have that experience that the one in live action does. So even after, as it immediately cuts back to her nonverbal communication starts to loosen up again. Again, well done by the animators almost 100 years ago, understanding human behavior better than the live action directors did this year. And so when it comes back to Snow White, you see her start to relax again. She moves back forward, she starts interacting again, brings her hands down. All of this softening of her nonverbal communication is just indicating that she's letting her guard back down from just the initial shock of somebody unexpected showing up in a window. That makes sense. And then her behaviors after that still make sense. Let's watch.
The literal men are not here.
no, they're not.
Making pies.
Yes, gooseberry pie.
It's apple pies that make the men folks' mouths water. Pie made from apples, like these.
So this is a different psychological foot in the door that the queen is displaying here than in the live action. The live action is just like, here, I've got a fruit. Did you want a fruit? I've got a fruit for your long run back to the castle. I've got one fruit for you for that. And it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense character-wise. It doesn't make sense contextually. It just doesn't make sense. In this one, it's still something that draws more of a rapport between the two of them. Oh, you're making pies, I see. Something that Snow White was doing. Immediate rapport building there. She's like, yeah, I'm making whatever pies that they were. And, oh, cool. Well, if you want the men to like it, then you should make apple pies. And regardless of whether or not that's true, that is still more rapport building than what happened in the live action one. And that rapport building is necessary because at this point, even though Snow White might be the most naive and sheltered person ever to exist, it's still a stranger. There still might be some walls there. So then that rapport building helps break down those walls. This makes sense behaviorally. And it's reflected non-verbally as well. Again, as Snow White in the prior scene has opened up a little bit more, it makes me wonder why they changed so much that was necessary for the behaviors of these people. They changed so much, and in doing so, ruined so much. It's pretty crazy to see.
Oh, they do look delicious.
Yes, but wait till you taste one, dearie. Try one. One, how about?
Stop it! Go away! Shame on you, frightening the poor old lady.
Ah,
So that was the queen's first ploy at Snow White eating the apple. It's like, you make apple pies for these men, and I guess the implication is that the men are going to be really happy about that, which, cool. But make apple pies, yeah, cool. You should taste how delicious this apple is for the apple pies that I just told you. It all makes sense. Albeit still, a person would have to be very overtly naive to be able to want to do that. But Snow White's supposed to be in this film, and she is in this film. It does make character sense as well. So now we're going to hear the second ploy for it.
Thank you. I'm sorry.
oh, my heart. Oh, my poor heart. Take me into the house and let me rest. A drink of water, please. And because you've been so good to poor old Granny, I'll share a secret with you. This is no ordinary apple. It's a magic wishing apple. Wishing apple? Yeah. One bite, and all your dreams will come true. Really? Yes, good. Make a wish. A bite. There must be something your little heart desires. Perhaps there's someone you love.
Well,
Okay. This makes more sense. This is a magical kingdom. There's no reason that Snow White should be like, there's no such thing as wishing apples, because there's not. But in this realm, there is. I mean, she was talking to a bird earlier, so like obviously magical apples that grant wishes doesn't seem that far-fetched. And if presented by this person who's already built a little bit of rapport with her, then it makes even more sense for her to be like, oh, it's a wishing apple. I can do that if she's extremely naive. Again, she's extremely naive. Now, non-verbally speaking in this, obviously the queen is maintaining all of the creepiness that she has just maintained throughout all of this. She's consistently and always creepy with how she behaves. And that, that feels like it's a big red flag. But again, if we're dealing with somebody that's as naive and as protected and sheltered as Snow White is, then sure, I get that. But even with that, even with all of that naivety in there, as the queen is kind of creepily moving and invading Snow White's space, she does the natural response to that of again creating more space, which if we rewind again to the live action of the moment of the knife being drawn on live action Snow White and the lack of self-preservation that exists in that instance, then, I mean, you know, it starts to become very clear the differences between the animated and live action and why the animated seems to hold up so much better. Despite some of the outdatedness of it, it still holds up better than the live action does. Regardless, we only have a few seconds left and then we'll wrap up.
There is someone.
I thought so. Old Granny knows a young girl's heart. Now take the apple, dear, and make a wish.
I wish.
That's it, go on.
And that he will carry me away to his castle, where we will live happily ever after.
Fine. So to the light. Don't let the wish grow cold.
Oh, I feel strange.
Her breath was still. Blood congealed.
There it is. There's the end of that little blip there. Non-verbally speaking, what I do appreciate from the Queen's representation during this time, you see a lot of this hand rubbing here. This is a self-soothing gesture. You could see this in any form of agitation. And then what I find more telling and adds context for what the hand rubbing and the self-soothing is here and what agitation that might be, is the gravity-defying gestures is what they're called. And that's when a person starts to defy gravity with various gestures. For her, she starts to literally bounce up and down. That happens in real life as well. You see that start to spike up. That is an indicator of an increased emotional state, usually in the realm of excitement in some form or another. So seeing the Queen's there, she hadn't been doing the little bobbing up and down with the hand wringing nearly as much throughout the rest of that, but as soon as there's this anticipation and excitement, it starts to be reflected in her nonverbal communication, again grounding her in real life human behaviors. And that is realistically the difference between the two, is that it seemed as though the animators back in 1937, which in 1937 psychology was not nearly as advanced and nonverbal communication was basically non-existent as an understood study. And so even then, they had more understanding of human nonverbal behaviors than what it seems as though they did in the live-action 2025 Snow White. And so that's it. That's my video comparing the live-action Snow White to the animated Snow White and talking about the differences behaviorally between the two and why the film from nearly 100 years ago works better than the one from this year. Let me know your thoughts in the comments of this video. If there are other videos or movies or anything like that that you would like me to take a look at, and yeah, the comments is a great way to be able to do that. If you want to see more videos like these, go ahead and hit subscribe. I should have more regular nonverbal body language content coming out on the weekends and then scattering some other stuff throughout the week itself as well, just to offer myself some creative alleviation, if that makes sense. But without further ado, that's all that I've got for the day. My name is Logan, and you have been oh so awesome as you always are, and I will see you in the next video. Cheers, guys.